The most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel. And we are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7 p.m. today. Can I get an amen? Wonderful to have you guys with us. Always do appreciate you making us part of your day. Could not do it without you. No, there's a ton of choices out there. What's good, YouTube? Fantastic to see you guys on for the show this afternoon. Here is what's coming up on the show today. We've got Kelly Ford, National Championship picks and predictions. He joins us at 3:20. Who is next to win their first? You know, you'll always remember your first time. We will tackle that at 3:40 p.m. this afternoon. Yesterday, we had the Clemson Tiger fans bleep list. Today, we do the Gamecocks bleep list. If you're wondering what that is, our interpretation of the top 5 schools that they hate.
I noticed that you said schools. If you had said people, you'd probably be on the list.
I take that as a badge of honor, Diesel. Badge of honor, I tell you. I'm going to give you my top 10 favorite stadiums in college football today, and we'll ask you, what stadium must you visit? All right? What's your next stadium on your list that you just have to absolutely positively swing by and see? We've got the top 5 at 5. We've got Can We Stop? We've got, my friends, the Upstate's favorite athlete bracket now down to its final 32. So the bracket is formed, the bracket is in shape, and we have you here on the most interactive sports radio show anywhere. 844-FAN phone. That's 844-326-3663. And the text line is there for you at 71307. Just start your text with the word fan, and away you go on the show. Want to update you guys on a couple of things from yesterday that just absolutely positively exploded, and this is incredible. We did the post yesterday, the Clemson's bleep list, right? We can't say the S word on the air, so I'm just calling it the bleep list. And again, the top 5 schools that Clemson fans hate right now. And we had NC State number 5, Florida State number 4, Ohio State 3, Tennessee 2, South Carolina 1. That post has now been viewed 52.2 thousand times. Ugh. We also have the poll up that is approaching 1,800 votes. Outstanding. Who had a better baseball season, Clemson or South Carolina? We have listed the tale of the tape, with South Carolina winning the head-to-head series, Clemson finishing the year more highly ranked in the top 25 poll, which they will. Clemson winning the ACC tournament, South Carolina not winning the SEC tournament, but South Carolina winning the super regional, and South Carolina winning their regional, Clemson not winning their regional. Thus far, 74.2% of those voting saying the Gamecocks had the better season. And I agree. I agree with that assessment. But I want to open with this, my friends. I want to open with this. The NBA Finals ended last night. I was really proud of the Miami Heat for the way they showed up and showed out and really brought it, the intensity, in an era where the lowest scoring team in the NBA still scores about 110 points a game. The winning score last night was 94 points. That's a reflection of the intensity and the defense that the Miami Heat brought. But this Denver Nuggets team, with an outstanding coach, Mike Malone, with 2 homegrown stars that they drafted themselves and then built around, with great others, as Shaquille would say, which are other players, the ancillary pieces. And to me, one of the most impressive things on the Nuggets is how Michael Malone managed to get everyone to buy in and to forego their own personal statistics for the greater good. You know, Aaron Gordon, for instance, slam dunk champion, one of the best dunkers that we've ever seen in the slam dunk contest, was a leading scorer when he played for the Orlando Magic. How many guys would be willing to just be a bit player on offense? Hey, come in, Aaron, and just be an energy guy for us. You know, when they were doing the interviews last night after the title, they didn't interview Aaron Gordon. He was option number 1 when he was with the Orlando Magic. What option is he now? 4, 5, 6, worse? He's bought in to being an energy guy and not even being one of the first 2 or 3 options to score for Denver. You know, like if your team is good enough that Aaron Gordon doesn't have to score for you, you have a chance to win an NBA title. But how many guys would buy into that role? Michael Malone got him to buy in. How many guys would buy in to the roles that Michael Malone has asked them to buy into this offseason, right? How many guys would buy into Bruce Brown's role, right? From Miami, but had a more significant role when he played for Brooklyn, right? Was a double-digit point-per-game scorer. How many guys would buy into the sixth man role or the bench role that Denver has wanted him to buy into? How many guys would buy into the Kentavious Caldwell-Pope role of starter but bit player? How about Christian Brown? The buy-in that they have received, that the Denver Nuggets received by all of their pieces for the greater good in a me-first era, right, where everyone's tuned into the With Him channel. What's in it for me was the most impressive thing that I've seen. And I was thinking about this as it pertains to Nikola Jokic and his just unbelievably stellar play. I think one of the main reasons nobody picked the Nuggets to win the NBA championship is because Jokic is on no all-defense teams. He doesn't block shots. He's not known as an elite defender. He's kind of known as the very skilled Pillsbury Doughboy of centers in the National Basketball Association. And you keep hearing, and it's for the first time, folks, a center, okay, for the first time, any player led the NBA Finals in both points, rebounds, and assists. For the first time ever. All right? That has never happened before in the NBA Finals. And Nikola Jokic just did that. And people are wondering, where does he stack up? Where does Jokic stack up among the all-time centers? So just like you have your list, I have my list, and I'll share my list with you right now. Certainly to be agreed upon by all. Okay, by all. I'm sure every single person is going to agree with every single one on this particular list. Number 1 center of all time, I say Hakeem Olajuwon. You guys know this. On my All-NBA starting 5 that I shared with you, Hakeem was my starting center. If you dispute this, I implore you that if you ever held a one-on-one competition between Hakeem Olajuwon and Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell, you wouldn't like the results if you were a Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain guy. We saw Hakeem Olajuwon against Shaquille O'Neal, and Shaquille O'Neal got swept, okay, by a team that wasn't even close to the seeding that Orlando had. The Magic got swept by Hakeem Olajuwon. I think Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, I have as number 2. He's got the most unstoppable shot. But Hakeem Olajuwon had an unbelievable amount of skill defensively, offensively, led the league in block shots, led the league in rebounds, and also the most amazing footwork the position had ever seen. So I've got Hakeem 1. I've got Kareem 2. I've got the most dominant player ever to play the position, Shaquille O'Neal 3. I've got Wilt Chamberlain 4. I've got Bill Russell, number 5. And then we come in with, for me, Nikola Jokic right now is number 6. He is a 2-time MVP. He is a 5-time NBA All-Star. He's averaged 20.2 points, 10.5 rebounds, 1.2 steals, All of these are on par with other centers. Where Nikola Jokic is worse is that he doesn't block shots. Where he is far better is the assist total. In his career, he has averaged 6.6 assists. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar averaged 3.6. Bill Russell averaged 4.3. Will Point Chamberlain 4.4. Shaq 2.5. Olajuwon 2.5. David Robinson 2.5. Moses Malone 1.4. Patrick Ewing 1.9. Nikola Jokic 6.6 assists a game over the course of his career. He is the jack of all trades, Mr. Do-It-All, do-it-everything, and he is so darn good around the basket that it just looks like he's placing the ball in the basket the same way you and I would if we were just standing over the rim. We're just placing it in the hole. Whenever he's around the basket, it looks like he's just placing the ball in the hoop. I've never seen anybody have such touch and accuracy right around the rim. I've never seen anybody make literally every shot that he takes right around the rim. It's unbelievable. And he's got the most diverse skill set the position has ever seen. I've got Nikola Jokic ahead of the following players right now. I've got David Robinson, number 7. David Robinson was outstanding. David Robinson was an absolute hero and a franchise saver for the Spurs. Franchise saver. The most chiseled, lowest body fat player I've ever seen in my life. He wasn't Hakeem Olajuwon's equal, and I don't think he's Nikola Jokic's equal either. I've got Moses Malone, number 8. You know, history has a way of forgetting some guys, and I'm sad for Moses Malone because he is a dude that I think history is forgetting. 20.6 points, 12.2 rebounds, 1.4 assists, 1.3 blocks, 13-time All-Star, 8-time All-NBA player. Why is history forgetting him? I don't know. I've got Patrick Ewing 9, and I've got Bill Walton 10. My top 10 centers list of all time. And the beautiful thing for Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets is that Nikola Jokic is right now at the male athletic prime of 28 years of age. And my friends, he is just getting started. And he might not have the flamboyant personality. He might not have the drama or dysfunction that for some reason we and all of our flawed Americans are drawn to, right? But he just happens to be the best damn player in the NBA. And he didn't win the MVP award because they determined that they couldn't give him the award 3 years in a row because that would be historic, and they weren't ready to crown Nikola Jokic as historic yet. That, my friends, is freaking pathetic. Nikola Jokic just finished his 8th year in the NBA. 24.5 points, 11.8 rebounds, 9.8 assists. Could have averaged a triple-double. Didn't care about the stats. Gets less than a block a game. Shoots 63% from the field, 38% from 3. And the guy is just the most well-rounded player that we have seen at this position ever. In so doing, he is rewriting what NBA scouts are looking for. They were moving away from the true, bulky, big-bodied center. Everybody was going for the stretch 4 and the Draymond Green type of center. Draymond Green in the old days is more of a 3 than he is a 5, is more of a small forward than he is a center. And then he plays center for Golden State. Well, Nikola Jokic is good enough to rewrite how the NBA plays and what the NBA is looking for. And that, my friends, is incredibly freaking impressive. Hakeem Olajuwon, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Shaquille O'Neal, Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, Nikola Jokic, David Robinson, Moses Malone, Patrick Ewing, and Bill Walton. There's my top 10. How, my friends, did I do? 71307 on the text line is where you can get to us on the show. Coming up next on the show, Texter says, should Nicola have won the MVP this year? Yeah, but MJ and Braun didn't win 3 in a row. The last person that did that was Bird. I hate these stupid rules that they come up with. You know, like, oh, he can't win it because he's already won it twice in a row. Is he the most valuable player? Answer the question, right? Is he the most valuable player? If the answer is yes, then put his damn name on the award right now. We've got Kelly Ford coming your way next on College Football Analytics. This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. It's Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7 p.m. today. Truly do appreciate you making us part of your day. You know, it's interesting. Everybody and their mother has Florida State winning the ACC. And if I'm a Clemson fan, that is freaking pissing me off. Because what have they done to earn that or deserve that? They've done nothing. They've been soft as Charmin since their existence. They have a quarterback who runs around and looks cute. They have crappy line play. You know, like every time everyone wants to highlight and hype up Florida State, you know what I say? 5-3 in the ACC. What do you think of the ACC? What do you think, right? Sucks. Soft. Cupcakes. They were 5-3 in that league. So channeling my inner Denny Green, you want to crown them, then crown their ass. But it doesn't make any sense to me. Joining us, Denny Green. So joining us right now, he's got one of the best analytics models in America. And whereas I don't always agree with his model, I respect the fact that he answers the questions. He answers the tough questions. He takes the heat. And I really respect something I'm about to share with you right now. Kelly Ford at K Ford Ratings joins us here on the show this afternoon. By the way, he's in my neck of the woods in Orlando, Florida right now at a college athletics convention. And Kelly, great to have you on, my man. What's good?
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. Always good to be on with you. Yeah, I'm down in Orlando at NACTA, which is an annual convention that athletic conference administrators come to across the country. And so it's been fun to be down here, enjoy some good weather, and do some good networking and meeting with folks. But definitely excited to talk some college football with you. And I'm with you on the Florida State. I think we're going to go there first. I don't totally understand the hype, if I'm being honest, down here in Florida as we speak.
Yeah, so your model says that Clemson is number 8 and Florida State is number 14. Therefore, Kelly Ford, your model is more sexy than other people's models, okay? And I just want to say, like you say that Clemson is going to win 6.5 games out of 8 in the ACC. You say that Clemson has a 19% chance of going 8-0 in ACC play, but that's 6.5 number, meaning that it's a coin flip whether they go 7-1 or 6-2. Is the best in the league. You say Florida State wins 6.1 games, so they're likely to go 6-2 in the league. There is just a 38% chance that Florida State will go either 7-1 or 8-0 in the league. I also think they've got a loss coming up to begin the year at LSU. My hope is LSU pulls a Georgia versus Oregon on Florida State so that we kind of just forget about Florida State the whole year, while they're kind of dominating inferior ACC competition. Why, Kelly, can you tell me why does everyone else's model love Florida State, and what does your model see that others don't?
So I think, Mark, one distinction there is I'm not sure that it's other models necessarily that are loving Florida State, maybe as much as the national public is. The news writers, the fans, the radio hosts, all of that. I think the perception about Florida State, because of how they ended last year, I mean, they ended the year very strongly. I mean, they ran off some great wins. They were playing really, really well. They built momentum. And now, you know, in the offseason here, they put together some nice incoming talent. They didn't lose a ton in the transfer portal relative to other contenders, right? And so I think the national perception of Florida State is they have arrived. Mike Norvell's a very good coach, which I agree with, and he's going to have them humming now. Whereas I think models such as mine, and maybe mine is slightly more down on Florida State than others. The things that I'm looking at in the preseason are your returning production, which again, Florida State grades out very well. It's your recent recruiting, which they grade out very well, relatively speaking. And then how has your team performed in recent years? And that's the one where Florida State still hasn't quite shown me just enough. They finished last year ranked power rated number 11 in the country, which is very, very good. It's their best year-end power rating that they've had since 2016. That's the Jimbo Fisher era. So I do think that Florida State's trending in the right direction. I do think that this is going to be a team to reckon with in the ACC moving forward. I'm just not sure that this is the year that they're going to get over that hump. I think Clemson's still a really good team. Florida State has to go to Clemson in week 4. And of course, you mentioned the game to start the year, a neutral site against LSU. Those are 2 really, really tough games. And as you said, Mark, after that, though, they have a bye in week 5. My numbers don't then see Florida State as anything less than a touchdown favorite in any game except for at Pitt, currently 6.5, and then to close the year at Florida. I currently have that one as a pick'em, and as we talked about before, my model may be a little bit higher on Florida than some others out there, so make of that what you will. But it's a very weak schedule, basically from week 6 until week 13. If they can get through LSU and Clemson unscathed, this is going to be a team that's definitely in that conversation for the CFP.
Kelly, what did you learn last year through the course of doing your models all season long that caused you or forced you to make a fundamental change to your model for this year? And how are you seeing things shift since making that change?
So, Diesel, I don't think I made necessarily fundamental changes. I did tweak a couple things this year, but it mainly had to do with the learning that I had regarding James Madison and how they perform transitioning from FCS to FBS. So, of course, we have 2 more teams doing that this year in Sam Houston and Jacksonville State. And so as I'm looking at how to account for those teams making the transition, I had some learning there. But in terms of overall performance of the model last year, and especially as we're talking about the top end teams, in the top 25, the Blue Bloods here, the model performed very well with regard to absolute error. So basically, my model is looking at every single game in FBS. What is my projected line versus what is the Vegas opening line, closing line, and then also what was the actual differential in the game, point differential. My model performed very well compared to the others that are out there. And so I did not feel during this offseason that a full overhaul was necessary, but I did make some tweaks, probably the most notable being how we address teams transitioning from FCS.
Kelly Ford joining us. Kelly, we have the time now to do something that I haven't done with you previously. And I want to just give you the floor, Kelly, to describe to all of us how you create your model. Like, what do you do? And is it something like, if we think about the NCAA football 2023 EA Sports, it's in the game. When we think about that game, a team's overall rating is determined by the individual ratings of the players on the team. So do you look at starters, Kelly, and then assign them a number rating that then produces an overall rating, and then the team performs like a video game? Can you share with us how you arrive at the relative strengths and weaknesses of every team?
Absolutely. Yeah, happy to. So as I mentioned earlier, in the preseason, there's really 3 main inputs that you're looking at. You're looking at what's the returning production? So who's coming back from your team? Who are you bringing in through the transfer portal in today's day of college football? Who are you losing to the transfer portal? So everybody has a returning production score. And again, returning production coming from Clemson to Clemson is one thing, whereas if you're transferring in from, let's say, Ohio University in the MAC to Clemson, the production that you had in the MAC is not necessarily going to be expected to be equal to the production that you're now going to have in the ACC, right? And so we have modifiers based on the level of competition that you faced previously, and it goes both ways on that. So returning production is the biggest piece that we're looking at. Then you have your recent recruiting, which I don't include transfers in my recruiting because I'm capturing them in the production. That is something that I'm continuing to monitor and look at here with the increased usage of the transfer portal. And as I try to fine tune the weights that I assign these inputs, but recent recruiting is another big piece in the preseason numbers. And then your recent K-Ford rating. So how good has your program been in recent years, the last 4 years, with most value assigned to the most recent years? And that kind of rounds us out. And it gets rid of any spikes or valleys that you have in terms of a really good or a really bad outlier year. So in the preseason, that's what we're looking at. And I'm able to then generate on the back end a points per game above or below FBS average of what does your team look like. I then, for my own personal purposes right now, hoping to one day maybe monetize the rating system, keeping that behind the scenes. For the public, what I'm showing is on a scale of 0 to 100, with 100 being the theoretical perfect team and 0 being the theoretically imperfect team. How does your team grade out? So, for example, if we're looking at Clemson this year, they are power rated number 8 in my numbers. Their K-Ford rating is 94.3. So they're basically in the 94th percentile of all FBS college football teams coming into this year, whereas Florida State at 14 has a 90.7. So they're in the almost 91st percentile of all of college football And then once we get into the season, I'm looking at things that other models out there look at. So Bill Connolly made the 5 factors famous when he's looking at success rate, when you're looking at turnovers, you're looking at finishing drives, all sorts of different things that we're looking at in terms of the offensive and defensive efficiencies of a team. And then I aggregate those. And as we talked about previously, special teams is also included in there with a much lesser degree. But South Carolina, of course, has been very successful at special teams. So they're getting a little bit more of a bump there. Iowa is another team that comes to mind with that. So we have the preseason components. We have the in-season components. You mash them all together. You're decreasing the preseason weight as we go. And then I have the true team rating, points per game above below average behind the scenes, and then what I publish is the 0 to 100 scale. So that's how it all comes together. As I mentioned, the results have been very good in recent years in terms of absolute air and how I'm doing against the spread record-wise. And if one day someone comes in and wants to either finance or pay for the ratings and have special access to those, I'm certainly open to that.
Kelly Ford, K4 Ratings on Twitter. Kelly, when was the last time you just kind of threw your hands up in the air at a result based on what your model told you?
I think it's probably Texas last year. I know we talked about that a lot on this show, Diesel, with you and Mark. Texas is a team that, as we looked at in 2022, was consistently, by my numbers and others out there, which I take comfort in, including Vegas, despite what people think, was viewed very highly. Texas was a team that had a lot of talent. They played very well in their games, but their record wasn't great. It wasn't reflective of their high power rating, of the high regard that Vegas held them in as well. And of course, with a program like Texas, they're so massively popular that a lot of public money is going to come in there. So Vegas is including that in theirs, and they're adjusting for that. My numbers are not designed to account for that. They're designed to be objective and to take that bias out of there. So we have a little bit different objective from Vegas in that regard. But overall, we're trying to identify the relative team strengths here. But Texas last year lost games that you could say maybe they were, quote, unlucky to lose if you're looking at some of the advanced metrics behind the scenes that we're looking at in the power rating world to try to figure out how strong is a team, predictably speaking, moving forward. And then even in games like the game against Alabama, who is a statistically very, very strong team. Again, I know they lost a couple games last year, which is unacceptable for that fan base and that program these days, but it was still a very strong team. Texas took them to the wire in a very close game with a backup quarterback. So it was kind of a perfect storm of things last year that continued to prop up Texas. Unlucky to lose some games, played very well against other opponents that are highly regarded in the model. And they were a team that consistently was up there power rated 6 or 7 for most of the second half of the year, but the wins weren't matching that. And it was a team that definitely drew the ire of many folks on Twitter that I had to respond to. And eventually I just said, you know what, it is what it is. I've explained this ad nauseum. I can't do it anymore. But that didn't stop people for sure.
Kelly Ford joining us here on the show. Kelly, if last time we had you on, we had people screaming on the text line saying, well, wait a minute, he doesn't factor in special teams. The Gamecocks are great on special teams. The Gamecocks won on special teams. And I wanted to ask you, Kelly, in your opinion, if not only your model, but most models miss on South Carolina's record again, will it be because of a lack of accounting of special teams, or what factors would go into corrections you need to make so you're accurate on South Carolina this year?
Yeah, for sure. I'm always looking at things like that. And I don't know if it's necessarily going to be a special teams type deal, because as I mentioned, special teams is incorporated. What we face in the power rating world is, how do we make individual team adjustments? So we obviously have kind of a base formula that we're using, and everybody's just slightly different, of course. But then how do specific teams, for example, South Carolina, for example, Iowa, how do we account for their kind of niche strengths? And that is special teams. So for most teams, special teams isn't going to account very much for their overall team score, because the impact that special teams has on the game is not nearly as significant as the offensive or defensive impact. But for a team like South Carolina or Iowa, they proved in 2022, and Iowa even goes back a little bit farther than that, that they can make a difference on special teams. They can win and or lose games on special teams. And so from a predictability nature, it can be difficult. However, I think more so than just the special teams impact, there are intangible things, as we talked about before, Mark, that the model can't account for. No model is perfect. No model will ever be perfect. If it was, sports gambling wouldn't be a thing, because everybody would have all the information and we know exactly how the games are going to turn out based on the model. And we can't perfectly model human behavior, especially 18 to 22-year-olds who are playing with an oblong ball. But there are some things that are intangible. And we've talked about it with South Carolina before. It would appear, from an outsider's perspective like mine, that Shane Beamer has found the right mix of ingredients. Last year, especially at the end of the year, everything really came together with that game against Tennessee, that game against Clemson to close the year. Everything really came together. All the intangibles, all the things that we can't measure in and around the program seem to be moving in unison with synergy in the right direction. And that's something that the model doesn't see. But if there are programs out there who are able to capture that for sustained periods, not just a 1 year thing, but for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, that does in other ways permeate through the model. And I can't expand on that too much. That's kind of some of the secret sauce that we have, but that permeates into the model, and you will ultimately start seeing credit for those being built into certain teams' power ratings as we move forward. It's a little bit slower to permeate because, again, we can't explicitly capture those things like from a mathematical sense, but they do work their way in there if it's proven over time, not just 1 year, over time, to be sustainable. That leads to exceeding expectations on a year-over-year basis, which South Carolina certainly did last year, and we'll see what they're able to do this year at South Carolina.
Kelly Ford joining us here on the show. Kelly, what does your model say about Notre Dame at Clemson?
Notre Dame at Clemson, as I go back up to Clemson, I was on South Carolina. So my numbers right now, like Clemson in the home game, welcoming in Notre Dame in Week 10, they like Clemson by about 4 points. For me, Clemson, as we talked about, power rated number 8. The defense is really good. It's a top 10 unit. The offense is a top 30 unit. Be curious to see how Cade Klubnik comes in this year. And now that it's his show, how does it all look under Klubnik? I think, as we've talked about before, probably should have been given the reins a little bit earlier, but they are his now, and he'll be going with it. I think the fact that the game's at Clemson does a whole lot, because I have Notre Dame power rated number 11 in the country. This is another defense that's pretty good, a top 20 unit. The offense, a top 30 unit. So I think Clemson, I'd give them the edge kind of with respect to both sides of the ball, just barely. And the fact that the game's at home might be the difference. It's a 61% win probability for Clemson right now for me. Of course, that's going to change as I finalize the preseason numbers here leading up to the season. And then once the season starts coming in, we start replacing preseason data with in-season data. Of course, it's subject to change. But as of right now, 61% win probability expected for Clemson when they host Notre Dame in Week 10.
Kelly Ford joining us. Kelly, when we as we do our show, you know, Diesel and I always say to one another, what are the podcastable answers from an interview or from a segment, right? So this could be one of them. Kelly Ford's greatest college football team of all time, based on your model, is?
The greatest college football team of all time, based on my model right now. Diesel, Mark, give me 1 second. This is not very good for the podcast, is it?
We can delete that part. We can delete it. Yeah.
Give me 1 second. I've got to pull up the spreadsheet that has that. I don't have it right in front of me. I do know that the 2018 Clemson team, I think right now, is number 2 on that list all time. I had 2020 Alabama number 1 on that list all time. However, as we've learned more about what that 2020 season was, and as we've seen what was actually predictive and accurate from that year versus what wasn't, as we've gone with additional data here recently, the 2020 Alabama team's actually fallen to number 3. So as I'm restarting here, the number 1 all-time team in college football history by my numbers right now, as it stands, is the 1971 Nebraska Cornhuskers with a K-Ford rating of 99.86. The 2018 Clemson Tigers also have a 99.86, and they are number 2 all time. They lose out as we continue decimal places farther than that. 2020 Alabama's number 3. 2005 Texas rounds out the top 4, and 2022 Georgia, just last year's Georgia team, currently the number 5 best power rated team in my rating set. However, it is important to keep in mind as I'm talking about this, that my numbers are not designed to explicitly compare across years. How they're really designed is to compare relative strength of each team against other teams within any specific year. So basically, it's not saying 1971 Nebraska would beat 2018 Clemson. What it's saying is that 1971 Nebraska was ever so slightly more dominant against the 1971 college football landscape than 2018 Clemson was against the 2018 college football landscape. So that's probably the accurate way to think about it, but it's a little bit more of a mouthful than folks want. So 1971 Nebraska for me, just barely edging out 2018 Clemson.
Kelly, we have a request here from a viewer, Madcraft, on our YouTube stream. He would like to know where your model has the 2001 Miami Hurricanes falling.
Oh gosh, there are 2 teams I appreciate the question. There are two teams that continue to give me headaches here. It is 2001 Miami, who I was 9 years old when this team was playing. They're one of the teams that is implanted in my mind as one of the best teams ever. There's so much talent, NFL talent all over the field, incredible team. Currently, 2001 Miami grades out as the 14th greatest team all time. But again, that means relative to the competition they faced in that year. They were definitely the number one team of 2001, but they come in number 14 all time right now. And the other team, I'm just going to out myself, you didn't even ask, the other team that gives me a massive headache is 2019 LSU, who grades out as the 19th best college football team of all time. Again, with the same caveat I talked about earlier of comparing across different years. The problem with LSU that I can't necessarily attribute to Miami, but with LSU, is it was a team that was not overly dominant in the first half of the year, especially on the offensive side of the ball. So with my numbers, I'm looking at every single game that was played over the course of the entire year, including bowl games, playoff games, whatever you want to talk about for postseason. LSU, while they ended the year, at the end of that year, if I only looked at the second half or the final few games, that LSU team very well could be the number one team all time by a predictive power rating such as mine. However, when we incorporate the entire season's worth of data, it drops them to only, and I say that in quotes, the 19th best college football team of all time. Guys, we've had tens of thousands of teams playing college football. To be anywhere near the top 20 is absolutely incredible. But 2001 Miami's number 14, 2019 LSU number 19.
Well, I'll tell you what, Kelly, I don't like the argument that people have for 2001 Miami. Like, the amount of NFL talent you have on a team might make you win some arbitrary or subjective most talented team ranking, right? But to determine best team, you got to go by the results. Miami beat an unranked Boston College that year 18-7 and had a game against Virginia Tech, number 14 Virginia Tech, that they won by 26-24. So, by comparison, 1995 Nebraska that my Gators had to go up against, unfortunately, lost 62-24. Their closest game all year was 14 points all year long, right? So I think I don't like the argument that, man, they've got the most NFL talent ever, and therefore that makes them the greatest college football team ever. It's about what you did at the college football level. And on that, Kelly, I agree with you. So good catching up with you, bud, and hope my home state treats you well.
Mark, absolutely. I appreciate it as always. Let me get one final thing here on that note, because I absolutely agree with you. That is why 1971 Nebraska grades out number one, because when you look at the schedule that team played that year and the other teams they were playing against, they actually, by my power ratings, beat in the 1971 year the number 2 power rated team in Oklahoma, the number 3 power rated team in Alabama, and the number 4 power rated team in Colorado, all in the same season. That 1971 Nebraska team beat the best that college football had to offer in 1971, which is why they end up where they do in the ultimate rankings there. So couldn't agree with you more, Mark. This has been great. I always appreciate you and Diesel. And yes, I will enjoy Florida here for the next few days, but appreciate you guys.
Awesome, buddy. Take care. Kelly Ford at K Ford Ratings. Coming up next, what are your must-go-to stadiums in college football? We'll tackle that when Offsides continues right after this. We are the Fan Upstate. It's Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7 p.m. today. Truly do appreciate having you guys with us. So what are your must-attend stadiums in college football? Like the stadiums that you must go to, whether it's before you die, in the next few years, etc. What are your top 10? Your top 10 stadiums in all of college football, including those that you've been to, including those that you want to go to, including those that are on your list that you must see. Folks, I present to you my top 10, counting down from 10 to 1. Number 10 for me, Bryant-Denny Stadium in Tuscaloosa. Not that Tuscaloosa is some special place or that the Bryant-Denny Stadium has a bunch of unique fixtures. I would love to go just to observe Alabama's dominance under Nick Saban and to see if in any small way the stadium plays a role in that dominance. Bryant-Denny Stadium to me is number 10. Number 9 for me. Diesel, we have Enter Sandman from yesterday, audio. Number 9 for me, we've got Husky Stadium in Washington. Now, Husky Stadium in Washington is by Seattle. It's got a lake by it. You have a view of beautiful Mount Rainier that's off in the distance, and the scenery is absolutely gorgeous there. The pictures that I've seen where you can be sitting in a part of the stadium and see a massive lake off in the distance, like I can't even believe it's a real photo. So in terms of being picturesque, that does it for me. Number 8 on my stadium list. You're going to know this stadium by a certain song, okay? What stadium is this? Of course, I'm talking about Lane Stadium at Virginia Tech. You know, year before last, North Carolina comes in, ranked number 6 in America. I picked them to lose to unranked Virginia Tech. And all you had to do was see this, hear this, and you knew North Carolina wasn't going to win that game. It's one of the few stadiums where I think fans are so scared bleepless that the teams lose the games, Diesel, before the game begins.
Yeah, but they've also lost a lot of games when they played Enter Sandman too, especially recently.
Recently, especially. That's
been a rough go of it for the old Hokies.
Yeah, Brent Pry had a rough first year there as well. That's number 8 for me. Number 7 for me, I'm going to go Lavelle Edwards Stadium at BYU, the most picturesque backdrop that exists in all of college football. That makes it obvious to me. Number 6 to me, how about the Rose Bowl in Pasadena? 72 degrees all year round, mountain backdrop, gorgeous sunset. Number 5 for me, best stadiums in college football. I'm going to go the Big House, all right, because you get the fight song, best fight song. You get the largest stadium in college football. You get the history and you get the tradition. And if you're Diesel, you get to de-pants all 107,000 people there.
Yeah, I went there twice. First time was a lot of fun. Second time, not so much.
Number 4 for me, I'm going to go Memorial Stadium at Death Valley. Like, I think when you have the passion that Clemson fans do, and folks, I'm going to be honest with you, Gamecock fans have equal passion, but I think the Hill gives Clemson that historic, noteworthy, traditional activity that bumps them up. Everybody knows the Hill. Everybody talks about the Hill. Everybody talks about the most amazing entrance in all of college football. I'm going to say it's Death Valley number 2. That's because number 3 on my list is Death Valley number 1. Baton Rouge, Louisiana. By far the most intimidating stadium I have ever been in my life. It's the only game I've ever been to I was legitimately afraid for my safety. Our buses were rocked by LSU fans back and forth to the point we thought they were going to tip over. Our buses were mooned. They tore down the goalpost when they beat us. They tried to ram the goalpost into the band. I had a cup of bodily fluid, urine, dumped on my head, okay, when I was there. And they are drunk and they are uncouth and they are unruly, and it is not a safe place. Death Valley, number 2. I put them up there because I understand the importance of being that kind of home field advantage. It's not enjoyable, though. Like, it's not a place you enjoy going to. Number 2 for me is the Swamp. And number 1 for me, Diesel, I bet you I am the only person who has this particular stadium on his list. I'm going with the Autzen Zoo in Eugene, Oregon.
Oh, I really want to go there.
I want to go there so darn badly.
One of the most unique looking stadiums I think you'll ever go into.
Yeah. And like, I've been fascinated by Oregon. I've always wanted to visit the state of Oregon. I've never had the chance to visit the state of Oregon. I feel the name of the stadium is great. The uniforms are great. The vibe is outstanding. Number 1 for me is the Autzen Zoo. Autzen Stadium, Eugene, Oregon. Like, that's where I want to go. That is my number 1 stadium to go see. What about yours? 71307 on the text line is where you guys can get to us. What are your top 3 must-see stadiums that you haven't yet seen yourself?
I've been to a handful of those already, so I'm going to add a few to make up for the ones that I've already been to that were on your list. I'm going to dip down into the FCS levels and say I really want to go to a game, number 1, at North Dakota State, inside that dome where they never lose. They never, ever lose. It's not a huge stadium, but it is tight. It is compact. All the sound is trapped inside. It is a sea of green and yellow. I really want to see that in person. And I really want to get up to the University of Montana. Also has a beautiful picturesque stadium built down into a valley with mountains all around it. But the way they built this thing, it's one of the most unique looking FCS stadiums I've ever seen. It looks and feels like a big time stadium, just on a slightly smaller scale.
What do you guys think? What are your must-see stadiums? What are your must-see stadiums in college football? Texter says here, so let me get this straight. You are judging stadiums. Okay. You are judging stadiums and ranking them, even though you have never been there or experienced some of them. Notre Dame says to you and all of the rest of them, hold. I'm giving it. No, I'm not ranking.
I think he's saying
stadiums.
hold my beer.
Yeah, no, I'm saying these are the stadiums I have to go to, some of which I've been to, some of which I haven't. I would be sad if you told me I'm going to pass away before I'm going to be at each and every one of these stadiums at least one more time. However, should you go to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, I highly advise you to wear their colors, whether you're rooting for them or not. Okay? If you want to get out of there with some form of wholesomeness in one piece, that would be my advice to you.
I went there as a visiting fan once, but I didn't make it out sober. I can tell you that. I can tell you that. It's because we kicked off at 10 in the morning because there was a hurricane coming. We had no choice. We had to kick off at 10 a.m. and people were getting plastered at 8 a.m. in the parking lot.
Coming up next, that's what they do there, Diesel. 8 a.m. It's never too early. It's never a bad time for a beer. Coming up next on the show, who is on the Gamecocks bleep lists? Oh, yeah. We'll have some fun with that when Offsides continues. We are the Fan Upstate. What is good, my friends? This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate rolling on until 7 p.m. today. What's good? Fantastic to have you guys with us. Truly do appreciate you taking part in our little show. We go to the phones, and Chris Arnett wants to chime in and discuss his top 3 stadiums that he must go to on his, on his vacation list, right? Like we all have this list of places we want to go see. We have the same list in sports. Chris Arnett, what do you see, man? What are you thinking?
Hey, Mark. Good to talk to you again.
Thanks, bud. You too.
I guess on my list, as a sports fan, I have to go Happy Valley. And then I'd have to say University of Tennessee, man, even though I'm not a fan of any of those guys. But, if you have to go somewhere, those are a couple places. And maybe University of Texas.
Yeah, those are really, really good ones, man. So why Happy Valley? I mean, do you want to go see a whiteout? Is that what's drawing you there?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's just tradition, just the whole football tradition, nothing more than that. I'm not a fan, but yeah, I mean, I guess if you have a purist form, like Happy Valley, Tennessee, those type of places, the Big House, the Horseshoe.
Works for me, my man.
Chris, does it not weird you out that Happy Valley is shaped a little bit like a European soccer stadium with the biggest stands being at the end zones?
Well, it's kind of weird. And I have to tell you, though, you know me, I am a UNC fan. And even though we're not a college football powerhouse, one of the prettiest stadiums is the UNC Stadium. Like, it has a very beautiful setting.
There you go. There you go, my man. Hey, Chris, dude, we appreciate first, before we let you go, Chris, we want to thank you so much for all your support, bud. And thank you so much for being a P1 listener of the show. We value and appreciate you so much, okay?
And can I tell you one more thing before I leave?
Sure.
F you all the time.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it, my man. Got to love it. All right. We appreciate very, very much Chris Arnett and his participation and his calls and his back and forth and all of that stuff. So, my friends, it is very obvious to me that every single fan base, all right, has a group of schools that are on their bleep list. Okay? It's very apparent. It's very obvious to me. All right? For Florida fans, South Carolina is creeping onto that list, right? Just because there's kind of, it seems like there's bad blood between the two fan bases, right? You've got Georgia, you've got Florida State, you've got Tennessee if you're Florida. But today is not the day to do the Florida Gators. Today is simply to ask the question, if you were to build a consensus among Gamecock fans for the top 5 schools they have the most ill will toward today, June 13th, 2023, what schools would be on the list? 71307 on the text line is where you can get to us. 844 fan phone. That's 844-326-3663 is the number to get to us on the show. Now, Diesel, yesterday we put out a list and we had Tennessee second. And I don't think there are any two people who would have the exact same 5. But there were a bunch of Clemson fans saying, well, Tennessee's nothing to us. It's your bleep list as of today. Okay, as of today. Tennessee gave you a prostate exam in the Orange Bowl. Okay? Tennessee gave you a wedgie in the regional. If you don't think Tennessee today is on your bleep list, I don't think you care that much.
And you may not have considered Tennessee on your bleep list yesterday, but once you guys all had a chance to get acquainted in the Twitter comment section, they might be on your bleep list today. Like, it got nasty.
Oh, it did.
It got visceral between Tennessee and Clemson fans in there.
What were some of the things people were saying, Diesel?
There's a lot of things I can't quote for radio. There's an awful lot of things I can't quote for radio. it's all they don't mean a whole lot to us. And then Tennessee fans came down on them pretty hard. And Clemson fans saying, no, it's Georgia. Georgia's on our top 5 list. And I'm just thinking, I don't think Georgia even thinks about you that way.
That's right. That's right. All right. So without further ado, my friends, I am going to give you my top 5 bleep list for the Gamecocks. Okay. Those folks who are top 5 on the bleep list right now for where the Gamecocks are. All right. For where they are as a program. And this is my list. Okay. It can't be wrong. It's my list. All right, Diesel. So let's get people acquainted to the sound effect, Diesel, that we're using, because I can't say the S word on the air. Okay. That sounds like the S word, does it not?
Sounds like somebody's straining hard with that one.
If that happened in your underwear, you would never wear those underwear again.
No, you got to burn those.
No, absolutely got to burn those and make sure no one's around you. All right. So here we go. Gamecocks poop list. Let's call it. Number 5 for me, Diesel. I'm going Kentucky. At number 5. Why? Well, these teams are always competing for like second or third in the East together.
Third or fourth.
Third or fourth, yeah. Okay, fair enough. These teams are, competing for recruits. You've got Mark Stoops, who is rolling his eyes at Shane Beamer, saying, you know what? You get around here, it's one thing to change the vibe. It's another to change the culture, right? One thing to change the vibe, another to change the culture. And then he adds to that the fact that you can stand up, you can put on some stupid sunglasses, you can dance around, do stupid stuff. And that was very clearly about Shane Beamer. Then, Diesel, Shane Beamer was asked, is there a coach in the SEC you'd love to throw down with? He said, there's one in particular that me and my wife keep talking about. And we asked people who he was talking about, and it was like 80% said it was Mark Stoops, right? 80%. So I've got Kentucky at number 5 on the list. That's my belief. Kentucky's number 5. Number 5 on the list. That is so gross. That is just beyond the pale, man. So nasty. By the way, I picked out the sound effect, ladies and gentlemen. Number 4 for me, I'm going to go with Missouri. Now, why would Missouri be on this list? Because Missouri is that crappy team that you always lose to, despite the fact that there's no reason for you to lose to them. Missouri has a winning record against exactly 3 teams since they've joined the SEC. Vanderbilt is one of them. South Carolina is another. Okay? Missouri has a winning record against all of 3 teams since joining the SEC. They're 7-5 against your Gamecocks. Therefore, Missouri is number 4 on the list. Number 3 on the Gamecocks.
Never gets any better. That's no.
Number 3 on the Gamecocks poopy list. I'm going to say it's Georgia. Why? Because Georgia, outside of a random and fluky upset, puts the Gamecocks in a body bag every single year. All right? Now, every year, the Gamecocks are trying to replicate what they pulled off 3 or 4 years ago, and seemingly they fall short every single year. And so we just have fatigue. We have demoralization from Georgia, and that is why Georgia is number 3. Number 2 for me, and you guys tell me if this is right or wrong. Perhaps this is my experience, but it's my list. I have the Florida Gators. All right? Never have I experienced anybody in my years in sports media coming after my wife. Yet Gamecock fans did after I ran a little bit of smack when the Gators beat them. What was the score? Like 30-6 or something like that in football in November? They came after my wife. All right. Florida has beaten the Gamecocks in men's basketball, in football, just knocked them out of the Super Regional. And I think, and you also have their hatred for me, the fact that their coach came after me, a Florida grad, earlier this year. And I think when you combine all of these factors, Florida has got to be number 2 on the bleep list right now, right? And the number 1 is obviously Clemson, because this rivalry, more than any other rivalry I've ever seen, is just filled and overflowing like a toilet with contempt. And it's beautiful. And you can add elements of that if you host a daily radio show. If you know anyone who does that, let me know. If you host a daily radio show, you can work elements of that rivalry. You know, building the passion of that rivalry into your show every single day. You guys might take note of the fact that this show tries to work something in the show on Clemson or South Carolina every single day, right? So Clemson is number 1 because I've never seen two sides of a rivalry have a complete inability to say anything kind about the other side of the rivalry. We can test this. Say one kind thing about your rival, okay? Say one kind thing if you're a Gamecock fan about a Clemson. If you're a Clemson fan, say one kind thing about the Gamecocks. You can't do it. I know you can't do it because I live this every single day, Diesel.
Yeah, this contempt is as vitriolic as any. And the problem is, y'all are exactly the same. You are equally as spiteful, petty, negative, childish as each other. You are flip sides of the same coin. You're kissing cousins. Dang it, you guys deserve each other.
So we're getting a text, and the text says, Diesel, that Tennessee would have to be number 2. Most hate them because of the Lattimore injury. Is the Lattimore injury viewed as a dirty thing, or was that just a fluke football play? I've never heard the Lattimore injury viewed as dirty. Do Gamecock fans view it as dirty? Is Tennessee, do you hate Tennessee more than you hate Florida, Missouri, or Kentucky? Really? Tennessee, South Carolina? Where did I miss? I got Clemson, Florida, Georgia, Missouri, and Kentucky. Let's get to Mongo, who is up next on the show.
Sorry, Mongo, that was not a criticism of you. That was just an ill-timed sound effect.
I did have Mexican for lunch, so
that works.
Yeah. So I'm going to break this down for you guys. Here's the top 5. All right, number 5 is going to blow some minds, but number 5 is Maryland. I don't know, ever since this whole recruiting battle happened and they snaked that linebacker from us a couple years ago, and there's been this whole rivalry between Maryland and South Carolina, and it's more on the Maryland side. These Maryland fans act like they're blue bloods, man. They act like they're the University of Michigan or something like that. It's just amazing to me. And they're horrible. And you want to talk about people coming after your family. These Maryland people wish bad on your kids and your wife and your grandmother and everything else. So I've got Maryland at number 5.
Okay.
4 has to be Kentucky. I don't have a whole lot of hatred for Kentucky, but I have to put them in there at 4 simply for the reasons you gave, Mark. The recruiting battles, we're always competing for anywhere from 2nd to 4th in the Eastern Division. So yeah, Kentucky has to be in there. 3 is Missouri. Eli Drinkwitz has the most slappable face out of any coach in Division I college football. He is the most smug. I'm trying to be radio friendly. You just want to punch him, and I think that's who Beamer was talking about wanting to fight.
And
I think it was Stoops.
And Mongo, he beats South Carolina no matter what school he's coaching for.
Probably.
No, there is no probably to it. When he coached Appalachian State, he came into Willie B and took home the dub.
I know, Diesel. You got to bring that up, damn App State, Brad. God. Anyhow, 3 is Missouri. 2 is the Tennessee Volunteers.
Why? You don't have Florida in your top 5? Look what we just did to you.
And hang on, I'm going to tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why before I get to Tennessee.
He don't want to give you the satisfaction, Mark.
No, it's not even that. I have no hatred for Florida. Florida is a solid school. They recruit solid. And look, they beat our tails most years that I've been alive. Florida and Georgia are two schools that you can always look at the schedule and go, man, I hope we can get them this year. But, you know, those are not ones that you would go, you know what, that's a guaranteed dub right there. Neither one of those games are. So I've got no hatred for Florida. Tennessee, on the other hand, smug. Their fans are horrible. And yes, the Lattimore injury was a dirty play.
Really?
It was an absolute dirty play. It was a high-low on Marcus. Marcus had 130-something yards on them at that point. He was running free the whole game. They high-lowed him in the game. And if you go back and look, the year following that, it was the same play against Sony Michel. But luckily, Michel didn't get hurt as bad. But it was the exact same hit. It was a high-low hit that took Michel out for 2 or 3 games.
So is the hatred due to that hit? Is that the reason?
I hated Tennessee fans before the hit. The hit just made me hate them even worse. And the fact that, and honestly, the fact that some Tennessee fans, if you pay attention on Twitter, they pick at you with that video. You know, they'll post that video and make fun of the way his leg flopped around and stuff like that. You know, it's horrible, man. Number one, we all know what it is. It's the Clemson Tigers. That cow pasture of a stadium up in Pickens County Tech. Can't stand them. But you said something a minute ago. You said that no Gamecock fan can say anything nice about Clemson. Dabo Swinney is one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. So much so that I want to hate him so bad because he's the coach for that school. It's everything in my being. I want to hate him. And last year, they interviewed Dabo after the game, and I was thinking to myself, please, God, say something bad about Shane Beamer. And he didn't. And it pissed me off because I want to hate him so bad, and I can't.
You're giving us a lot of good drops. You're entering crazy Ralph territory, I think, in this call, Mongo. You are, brother. And let me tell you another thing. This is like in the last couple of weeks, you know, I think a lot of hosts, Mongo, they get to feel like they know everything about their market. I've been here 4.5 years. I had no idea Tennessee was number 2 on y'all's list. All right. Diesel, if you post this, put Clemson number 1 and leave the rest of them blank, I think, you know, so they have to listen, so they can argue with me about, I don't want to be getting all these comments like we don't know what we're talking about. Tennessee's not on the list. I didn't put Tennessee there. Mongo, I didn't know that. I never would have, I just would have said, I guess they're an SEC rival. I couldn't have told you who the Lattimore hit happened against, and I couldn't have told you that you guys feel like the Lattimore play was dirty. So I'm learning stuff. I continue to learn so much. Continue to learn so much about the market. I appreciate your call, buddy, and your take. Thank you, bud.
Take care, guys.
All right. So you heard from Mongo, Tennessee number 2. You guys, like, at some point, right, you can blame me, right, for, you know, still learning things about the market. I blame you guys for never telling me that Tennessee is number 2 on the list for the Gamecocks. I blame you guys for that because no one ever told me that. No one ever told me that the Marcus Lattimore play was dirty. You know, it's not like I go back and watch that time and again. It's a gross play. It's disgusting. I don't like to see somebody's leg flopping around like a fish. Don't enjoy seeing it. So anyway, folks, we will open it up to your list, 71307 on the text line. Yes, let's flush all of the bad will out of the studio right now. We will continue with your discussion, the all-time crap list, the poop list for Gamecock fans. Doesn't Florida have to be on the list somewhere, given what we've done to you, given the humiliation of the football game, given the embarrassment of not reaching Omaha for the 11th straight year? No? Still no? It's Offsides. It's Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate. We've been going over what we perceive to be South Carolina's bleep list, S-word list, crap list, based on the following criteria. If you formed a consensus of Gamecock fans' opinions, these would be the 5 schools they hate the most right now. I don't see how Florida's not on that list, given what the Gators have done to you in the last 6 months. But proving that we're absolutely not too old of dogs to learn new tricks, I had no idea. I've been here 4.5 years. I had no idea that Tennessee was second on the hatred list to Gamecock fans behind Clemson. No idea. Do you guys ever recall telling me that? No. Do you guys ever recall communicating that to me? No. We don't spend a lot of time here talking about Lattimore's injury. I couldn't have told you what team it happened against. You know, I could have told you all about the injury itself, how I thought he was a steal for the 49ers, how I thought he was going to get well again, and then he never did. You know, I remember being on the air in Atlanta and saying that, man, I thought the 49ers got one of the steals in the draft, picking Lattimore in the 4th round. Could just never get right again, man. Was depressing. I was today years old when I learned that the Gamecocks hate Tennessee almost as much as Clemson. Let's see here. Texter says, can't drink all day without starting in the morning. So says Joe from Boiling Springs. That's what they do in Baton Rouge. Joe, thanks for the text. Spur Daddy says, my top 3 stadiums I'd love to see a game at. Number 1, the Swamp. Number 2, Folsom Field. Number 3, Lane Stadium. Spur Daddy, great choices. I've been to Folsom Field in Colorado. It's every bit what you think. Texter says, even though we suck, Virginia Tech Lane Stadium, Enter Sandman, one of the greatest college game entrances ever. You're right, sir. It is. It's incredible. Texter says, Mark, 1 for 9 for USC is Clemson, and 10 is... 1 through 9 for USC is Clemson. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And 10 is Kentucky. They hate us because they ain't us. Texter says if the Fighting Mark Ryans were a team, they'd be the number 1 team. Or at least one person likes us out there. Texter says, Mark, you know, you're ranking Florida number 2 on South Carolina's bleep list. It has to do with you, not Florida. Tennessee would have to be number 2. Most hate them because of the Lattimore injury. Texter says, Mark, I can say something nice about the Gamecocks. Here you go. I'm proud of them for getting through their identity crisis. Texter says, yes, it was a very dirty play when Lattimore got hurt. In my book, Clemson is 1A and Tennessee is 1B. It's so hard to watch the play. Most people don't see it. Yeah, like it is tough to watch the play. I agree with that. Texter says all of us Gamecock fans love those cow-tipping hillbillies up in Pickens County. Texter says I'm a diehard Gamecocks fan, and I like Dabo. I think he's a good man that cares about his players. It doesn't mean I'll ever pull for Clemson. So says Mike C. Look at that. Gamecocks saying something nice about Clemson. Perhaps it is possible. After all, Texter says, I agree with Mongo. It was super dirty. Those Rocky Top playing hill jumpers just gripe my backside. Texter says, I say nice things about our rival, Ohio State. I love when they lose. LOL, so says Wolverine Joe. Wolverine Joe was great meeting you last week, buddy. Texter says, we hate Tennessee. I wouldn't even pee on them if they were on fire. I would be even closer to saying I hate them more than Clemson. Wow, that's pretty close. I never would have known that. You guys never told me that before. I've mentioned my hatred for Tennessee on the text line before, so says Spur Daddy. Mark's mama said that USC fans are so mad at everybody because they got all them trophy cases and no football trophies. Oh, not Mark's mama. Mama said USC fans are so mad because they got all them trophy cases and no trophies in them trophy cases. Texter says they don't call it Kneeland Stadium for nothing. Oh, boy. Texter says South Carolina hates Tennessee because they are more likely to beat Clemson 40.8% than Tennessee 26.3%. Texter, what source are you using for those numbers? What source is saying they've got a 41% chance to beat Clemson? I have not seen that anywhere. But you guys have educated us today on the schools and teams that the Gamecocks hate the most. If you're a Gamecock fan, do you agree with the notion that Florida isn't even in the top 5? Really? Like, to me, as a Gator fan, it's Georgia, it's Florida State, and, like, I think South Carolina is passing Tennessee in my book. Just the bad blood, what I experience day in and day out, it's passing Tennessee, man. That's what I say anyway. All right. Coming up next on the show.
You sound a little jealous, by the way. You sound a little hurt that Florida's not in the top 5.
I can't believe it, Diesel. I want to be hated. I want to be crapped on. Folks, coming up next on the show, who is the next to win their first? We'll explain. This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. Guys, what can you tell me? Diesel, what can you tell me about Whitney, South Carolina?
I've heard of it. That's about all I can tell you.
He's heard of it. Is Whitney, South Carolina, is that considered part of Spartanburg? Like, where is Whitney, South Carolina? Is it here in the upstate? You know, like some of these questions that we ask you guys might seem like really dumb questions to you, especially if you go by every single day. But realize, folks, there's 200 plus towns in this area. We don't know where the hell they all are. Okay. Like, I don't know every single name for simplicity's sake. I just call everything Anderson, Greenville, Spartanburg, Pickens. I mean, I basically stick with the county names. You know what I mean? The county is the same name as the city, and those are the only names that I use. I'm in Spartanburg. I'm in Pickens. I'm in Anderson. I'm in Greenville. I use the county names, you know? Is Whitney around here somewhere? I'll tell you why I'm asking you that coming up about 30 minutes from right now. Is that cool? 71307 on the text line is where you can get to us. Guys, I was thinking about this. It's mind-blowing to me, all right? Just how many revolutionary athletes we are now witnessing concurrently, simultaneously, at once, right? Like, if you think about this in terms of each and every sport, we are seeing, we have so many scenarios where there's one of one. You know, those really expensive paintings, the artist will put the number of paintings that they are in the lower right, one of 20, one of 10, one of 100. We have so many athletes right now that are one of one. They are revolutionary. There is nobody else like them. There's never been anybody else like them before. And I was asking myself this, okay, in terms of the athletes that we've seen today, right? Circa 2023, okay, that we've never seen before. Here's who comes to mind. Tom Brady, Nikola Jokic, Shohei Ohtani, Steph Curry, Pat Mahomes. Who am I missing? Tom Brady from unheralded and bench player at Michigan, backing up Drew Henson, the everything boy, to the best quarterback who's ever lived, right? Nikola Jokic, the most diverse skill set we've ever seen from a true big center. Unbelievable court vision, basketball IQ, and passing ability. Really good shooting ability. 38% three-point shooter, right? So, Steph Curry, the dude that shot shots that would get you benched your whole life. You know, if you took that shot, you were placed on the bench, and he made them. Okay? He made all the shots that got you in trouble, and he did so regularly. Shohei Ohtani, the modern-day Babe Ruth. Is he a better hitter? Is he a better pitcher? You tell me. He's equally adept at both. He is dominant at both positions. We haven't even like Greg Maddux was a pretty decent hitting pitcher, but he could never have been a full-time hitter. He could never have been a DH or anything like that. We've never even seen somebody attempt what Shohei Ohtani is doing and be okay at it, let alone great. It's unbelievable. It's like Ohtani is a 9-level pitcher and a 10-level hitter. And we've never even seen someone be a 10 and a 5 or even attempt this, right? It's insane. And then Patrick Mahomes, revolutionary. Why? Why is Patrick Mahomes revolutionary? Because he ad-libs more than any quarterback who's ever played the position. And he does it on the fly and in real time, and he does it with his brain in autopilot where it's clear like he didn't think about this before the play. He'll sidearm a pass out of nowhere. He'll throw under an oncoming rusher's arm. He sees the field, I think, like Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator saw enemies. When I see him surveying the field, I think there's all these percentages that come up. You know, all of these infrared lights come up. He is a computer playing the quarterback position and an ad-libbing machine. Am I missing anyone, ladies and gentlemen, in terms of the revolutionary athletes that we are seeing today? Tom Brady, Nikola Jokic, Steph Curry, Patrick Mahomes, Shohei Ohtani. Also in an era with LeBron James, who does more things at a higher level on a basketball court than we've ever seen one individual player do before. You know, I think what happened is all these players got tired of being compared to every other player, right? And so they wanted to start being one of one. How can I be one of one? If you are truly revolutionary, you change the game. Steph Curry gave birth to Trae Young and others like him who are trying unsuccessfully to be Steph Curry, right? Nikola Jokic should get a thank you card and a gift basket from every big, lumbering center that's out there because he made it possible for them to play basketball in the NBA still. The NBA was moving away from the 280-pound center. Now it's back again, right? Shohei Ohtani opening the doors for other players to attempt the two-way deal, to attempt the two-way thing, making it possible. Fantastic to see, right? But how many guys that you know of, that you can think of are truly revolutionary, that are doing it right now? 71307 is the text line in order to get to us on the show. Texter says, Mark, you are missing Novak Djokovic in tennis. Can you describe to me, Texter, in your opinion, how he's revolutionized the sports? And when you answer that question, please give me the specifics in terms of his game. How does his game revolutionize the sport? Because those are the examples we're giving on everybody else. Texter says, Mark, I know you hate to say it, but Tiger Woods did things on the golf course we've never seen folks do before too, Mark. No, Texter, I don't hate to say it. I just kind of view Tiger Woods as kind of being semi-retired because he's no longer competitive in majors, right? So in my mind, Tiger Woods is kind of past tense. But did Tiger Woods revolutionize golf? You bet your ass he did. Tiger Woods, unfortunately for him, he was the reason there's now so many people beating him. Here's what I mean. Tiger Woods had a golf club in his hand at the age of 3. Before Tiger, nobody else fit that description. Nobody else had a golf club in their hand at the age of 3. And so when Tiger Woods came about, you had hundreds of thousands of dads all over the country trying to grow the next Tiger Woods. And eventually, Jordan Spieth and Dustin Johnson and all these guys that were really good far before they should have been, we got to that place. We got to that place where Tiger Woods' success gave rise to many young golfers, all of whom, as toddlers, were playing the sport. And it gave rise to him losing. Tiger Woods absolutely revolutionized the sports of golf. Whitney is in Spartanburg County, Mark. Thank you so much, Texter. I appreciate that. Texter says, Mark, let me tell you about the bottom 10% of Clemson fans. This might even be bottom 1%. A Clemson fan I worked with was talking about Lattimore's injury and said, that's what you do to a chicken before you clean it. You break his legs. I was ready to deck the guy. I just told him that he didn't have any class. I'd agree with you, Texter. I'd agree with you. I'm sorry that you had that experience. Texter says, I feel like Gamecock and Gator fans only dislike each other on game week. The hate just isn't there like for Clemson and the Vols. Well, Spur Daddy, I invite you to check out my timeline. Okay? I invite you to do that. I also think sharing two football coaches and being able to relate to each other about how awesome one was and how much the other sucked makes Gators and Gamecock fans tolerate each other more. I think the fact that the Gamecock program keeps accepting Florida sloppy seconds, like it kind of permanently places South Carolina below Florida, in my opinion, right? Like when is Florida taking South Carolina sloppy seconds? It's not a good look to always do that. And it's like Will Muschamp was hired because it felt like to me, well, if he was good enough to coach at Florida, he's good enough to coach here. It's not a good way to be. Not a good way to hire. Texter says Lionel Messi. Yes, Texter. Yes. 100% Lionel Messi revolutionizing the sport. Djokovic leads Nadal and Federer head-to-head 24 majors won. Texter, but you're not doing what I asked. I said, how does his game revolutionize the sport? All these guys have a laundry list of accomplishments. You're giving me majors won, only made player to win the major 3 times, may finish with 26 or more. I'm talking about how does his game revolutionize the sport in which he plays? How did it change the sport? If the answer is it doesn't really, he's just better than everybody, then I'm not really sure he was revolutionary, right? With revolutions, there come major change. So was he revolutionary? 71307 on the text line is where you guys can get to us on the show. We've got the top 5 at 5 coming your way next, right here on the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan of State. Sports Talk. This is Offsides with Mark. What's good, everybody? This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7 p.m. Know you got a ton of choices out there. Truly do appreciate you making us part of your day. Could never do it without you guys. In this hour, we've got the top 5 at 5. We've got our very first matchup and our Upstate's favorite athlete bracket. Folks, this particular bracket, we will know who the all-time favorite athlete is from Upstate South Carolina when this bracket is done. Matchup number 1 comes your way in the very, very next segment. We have gotten through the play-in regions. We have winners to announce. We now are down to the final 32. We ask for your help in helping this blow up. If you could talk about it with your friends, family, coworkers, etc. Spread the word. We're going to be able to tell you who the Upstate's favorite athlete is in a few weeks.
As we get deeper and deeper into this thing, how awesome is it going to be if we can get some of these athletes on the show?
Oh, yeah, it would be incredible. Would be
incredible.
Yeah, would be incredible. So, my friends, it is that time. We've also got Can We Stop in this hour. I've got a couple of things that I'm really passionate about. Can We Stop is our What's Your Beef segment, where you can vent about something in sports or life that, people need to stop doing yesterday. That's coming up at 5:40. But for right now, it is time for us to do that jam. We call it the top 5 at 5, the top 5 biggest sports stories of the day, the top 5 topics we're discussing. Ladies and gentlemen of the Upstates, Offsiders, the top 5 at 5 starts right now.
And now, the top 5 at 5.
And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hit it.
5.
At number 5, I revealed my list today to you of the top 10 football stadiums that I've got to visit again before I die, or potentially for the first time. Number 10, I've got Husky Stadium, Washington. Beautiful mountains and lakes visible from the stands. Number 9, Bryant-Denny Stadium, Alabama. I don't know that Tuscaloosa is all that. I don't know that Bryant-Denny Stadium is all that. What I want to see is, to what degree does the stadium itself play the role in Alabama's dominance? Number 8, Lane Stadium, Blacksburg, Virginia. You guys don't know this, but 3 months before I got this job, I was a finalist for a job in Blacksburg, Virginia. And I'm so glad it worked out the way that it did. Blacksburg, Virginia is very cold. The air quality is very, very bad. And I got pretty far in an interview process for a job in Blacksburg, Virginia. I don't know, man. I don't think that would have worked for me, being in a college town away from everything. Number 7 for me, Lavelle Edwards Stadium, BYU, the most gorgeous backdrop of any stadium in all of college football. Number 6 to me, the Rose Bowl, similar. You got sunsets, mountains in the distance, 72 degrees. Number 5 for me is the Big House, biggest stadium, best fight song, historic. Diesel got to witness the greatest upset in college football history there.
Did you know at the Big House, they count the janitorial staff and the concession staff as part of their attendance?
Oh, how do you know that?
Heard it.
Okay.
Word on them streets.
Oh, word on the streets. Diesel, when you're there, does it feel like the biggest thing you've ever seen?
Oh, God, yeah.
It does?
It's massive. And you don't realize it as you're walking up to it, because from ground level, it only goes up. Well, it doesn't seem that huge. It's probably 50 rows or more, but it's all buried down into the ground. So you walk in and you're like, whoa, there's a long way down to go to the field level.
The Big House.
And it doesn't feel as straight up, because it's just a one giant bowl. It's weird how Big Ten stadiums build their stadiums. Big Ten schools build their stadiums versus SEC teams do it. SEC and ACC schools, you build the sidelines and you build an upper deck on the sidelines on either side. But for some reason, those Those Big Ten schools, those Pac-12 schools, they like to make a big bowl.
I've got the Big House 5. I've got Memorial Stadium, Death Valley, and Clemson 4. Look, you got to have an iconic something. The Hill is iconic. Number 3 for me is Death Valley and Baton Rouge. You're scared for your life when you go there as a visiting fan. Number 2 for me is the Swamp, a phrase coined by the great Steve Spurrier. And number 1 for me, never been, dying to go, the Autzen Zoo in Eugene, Oregon. Get me there. I want to go so badly. The uniforms, the colors, the evergreen trees, the sunsets, Phil Knight, Nike, everything having to do with it. I got to go, man. I got to go. What are your 1, 2, and 3? Diesel, what are yours?
1, 2, and 3 that I still have to go to. Oh, man, I want to go to I've been to quite a few. I want to go to Wisconsin. I want to see that. I haven't been to Virginia Tech for a game. I've been in the stadium before, but never for a game. No, I take that back. We got our asses kicked there, so I kind of wiped it out of my memory. So no, I don't want to go back there again. Bad memories. I really want to go to I want to go to Southern Cal, and I want to go to Autzen. So Southern Cal, Oregon, and Wisconsin.
I think you and I might be on the wrong coast, Diesel.
Yeah.
I might be on the wrong coast. So much that we want to see and do is out west. Next up,
4.
by the way, send us your top 3 stadiums that you have to see. All right. I would love to hear what you've got. Number 4, congratulations are in order to one Caden Grice. He has been named the John Olerud Award winner for being the best two-way player, a mini Shohei Ohtani at the college level. Major award that he won today.
It's a major award.
It is. In 2023, he was 8-1 with a 3.35 ERA, held opponents to a 196 batting average, and had 101 strikeouts and 33 walks in 78 innings pitched, 14 starts on the mound. At the plate, first-team All-American Caden Grice, 307, 18 home runs, a triple, 15 doubles, 68 RBIs, 60 runs, a 618 slugging percentage, 411 on-base percentage, and 4 steals in 59 games. He is college's version of Shohei Ohtani. That is an awesome award. Caden Grice, congratulations to you, my friend. Super proud of you. That is simply incredible. Next up.
3.
So because we did this yesterday with Clemson and because we are an equal opportunity bloviating show, we have today discussed South Carolina's bleep list. It's the S word. I can't say the S word on the air, but it is the bleep list, the crap list, the poop list in this sense, okay? If Gamecock fans were to form a consensus of the 5 schools that they hate the most, who would they be? And I learned something about you guys today. No one ever told me this before. My Gamecocks poop list is number 5, Kentucky, 4, Missouri, because the Gamecocks are one of only 3 teams that Missouri has a winning record against in the SEC, and Vanderbilt is one of them. 3, Georgia, 2, Florida, and 1, Clemson. And we've heard from a bunch of Gamecock fans saying, well, wait a minute. We don't hate Florida that much, Mark. We can't speak for what you're going through. We actually really hate Tennessee dating back to the Marcus Lattimore injury. That dirty play. Never knew that. Never knew you guys consider that a dirty play. Never knew it was Tennessee. I've seen the play 100,000 times, but I couldn't have told you today without looking at it that Tennessee was behind the hit on Marcus Lattimore. And I didn't know up until today's show that Tennessee is so high up on your bleep list. Never knew it. What would you guys say? The Gamecocks 1 through 5 bleep list. What is it? Next up.
2.
Nikola Jokic, NBA champion. And he is changing the game in the sense that he is opening things back up for the plotting center. You know what's funny about Nikola Jokic is so much of what was written about him in his scouting reports is actually right. Slow, unathletic, plays below the rim, can't jump. All of that stuff is true. And he's still the best player in the NBA today. He is an NBA champion in year 8 of his career, year 7 for Jamal Murray. And folks are starting to ask the question, where does he rank among the all-time best centers? So I've got a list for you here. Number 1, Akeem Olajuwon. 2, Kareem. 3, Shaquille O'Neal. 4, Wilt Chamberlain. 5, Bill Russell. 6, here he is, Nikola Jokic. 7, David Robinson. 8, Moses Malone. 9, Patrick Ewing. And 10, Bill Walton. My 10 best centers who have ever played the game. Agree or disagree that Nikola Jokic is on the verge of cracking the top 5? Look, folks, I love what Denver's done. I think the biggest reason they are your NBA champions is because they found a bunch of guys under Mike Malone who are willing to play selflessly. They don't care about their stats. They just care about the dub. They just care about winning, right? And if I were drafting a player today, I would have to figure out some way to measure his level of passion for being great. You know, an expert can do something, practices until they can do something right. A master practices until they can't do something wrong, right? I get the sense that Nikola Jokic is a master. When he plays, it's like he's just dropping the ball in the basket. When he shoots around the hoop, it's like there's a 0% chance it's going to miss. Congratulations to the Denver Nuggets. First time NBA champion. And finally,
1.
you know, I was thinking about the Joker, Nikola Jokic, and I was thinking about some other athletes, and I was thinking about how truly blessed we are to be living in a time where there are so many revolutionary athletes. So many of them. You've got the Joker, who's got a more diverse skill set than anyone who's ever played the game. You've got Tom Brady, and I've got people saying to me online, Mark, how was Tom Brady revolutionary? His fast reflexes, number 1. His ability to anticipate the potential outcomes of another player's actions, number 2. Number 3, his ability to diagnose the defense before the play began, always knowing where he was going to go with the ball immediately when the ball was snapped. We were not at that level of understanding of QB play before Tom Brady did what he did. Right?
Oh, and he was winning Super Bowls in his 40s.
Right. I mean, that's kind of freaking revolutionary.
Are people already turning the page on Tom Brady? Like, Tom Brady? Who was that? What did he do? What did he do that was so special? Seriously, Texter?
We got a guy saying Brady wasn't revolutionary. He was just on great teams. Diesel, I swear this is Lonzo texting it. Okay? This has got to be Lonzo texting it. Texter, I'll have you know that Brady joined the 7-9 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 7-9. He was essentially the only addition to the Bucs and took them from 7-9 to the Super Bowl in year 1. I just want to know, what about, you know, people are saying Novak Djokovic. Tell me how his game is revolutionary. I'm not arguing with you. If you can make an argument as to how his game is revolutionary, I will, you know, I'll concede. Okay, but if you can't tell me how his game is revolutionary, when I can tell you how Steph Curry was revolutionary, LeBron James, Shohei Ohtani, two-way player, Patrick Mahomes, the greatest improv artist of all time. If you can't tell me how his game is revolutionary, he's not a revolutionary athlete. And those are today's top 5 at 5. Now it's your chance to chime in, which you can do at 844-FAN phone. That's 844-FANFONE. That's 844-326-3663. The text line is there for you at 71307. Just start your text with the word fan, and away you go. Invite you to follow us on Twitter at The Fan Upstate. Please do like us on Facebook at The Fan Upstate. And it would be awesome to have you subscribe to us on YouTube. We are on YouTube right now. Hey, everybody.
Mark, you know who's on my bleep list? Are these three chuckleheads in our YouTube comment thread, Spur Daddy, Stephen Webb, Madcraft, and others who are planning a barbecue and they didn't invite us.
Oh, come on, guys.
They're planning a barbecue in our comment section, and they're like, hey, can you guys bring the beer?
How are you going to be doing that and not invite the people that you're watching here on YouTube?
I told them I'd bring them some Bud Light.
Hey, do you guys know that you can watch us on YouTube now? You can listen in your cars. You can listen on your app. You can also watch us on YouTube. At the Fan Upstate on YouTube, the first 2 hours and 20 minutes of the show every single day are on YouTube. Also, want to give you guys another quick special announcement. Folks, this is a landmark. This is a landmark occasion. There's no doubt about it. And we all share in this. Offsides has show number 1,000 that is coming up. It is next Wednesday at Ingalls, 8004 Warren H. Abernathy Highway in the Berg, in Spartanburg. I would love to see you guys out there for that. I got to be honest with you. As I've been seeing these shows count up, you get a little emotional because I remember when we did show 100 here, and I started in January. This would have been about June, right? And I remember thinking to myself, man, could I ever see getting to 1,000 shows here? And the answer was I knew that it was a long shot because the average job in our business lasts 2.3 years. Okay? We've got tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, and then next Wednesday is show number 1,000. We're going to be giving away Fan Upstate shirts, Fan Upstate hats. Okay? We want you to come out and enjoy and take part in some of the celebration with us. Show number 1,000 of Offsides a week from Wednesday. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to this as well. When we come back here on the show, my friends, it is time for our first official Upstate's favorite athlete bracket. Who is going to win this thing? Make your predictions now. It's Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate.
Hey, guys, on the stream, Madcraft, Stephen Webb, Spur Daddy, all of you guys who've been watching throughout the show today and watch this show every day. Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for being here every single day. We really do appreciate that. And yeah, you guys, I'm going to find it's funny. They only made one Dylan Mulvaney can of Bud Light, but I'm going to find a whole damn case of it. And I'm going to bring it to you in your backyard barbecue. So you're going to have to, if you want to drink beer, you're going to have to stare at that face. Okay.
Yeah. Rule number one of the YouTube stream, guys. If you're going to be planning a social event, you got to invite the show. I mean, come on, please invite the show. We would love to partake. We would love to be there. We see all of your comments, guys, and we appreciate all of your comments. Stephen Webb and Madcraft and Spur Daddy and all of you guys on the channel, man. It means the world to us. Thank you guys so much. If you could do us a solid, spread the word about the stream. Spread the word about the show. We don't have this massive ad budget here, marketing budget, to where we have billboards or anything like that. We rely on you guys to spread the word on us. So if you would be so kind, we'd love to have you do that. We love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks, guys.